Beside the Palm, episode 7.
Welcome. Today we have Justin Bair, who is our Associate Director of Worship and Music, a title that I'm just informed that he made up when he got here. So if only we could all be so privileged.
Titles don't, Jim. Just do good work, okay?
That's a Sid quote right there. Words to live by. So, as always, tell us a little bit about your history with St. Luke's, because your current position is not your first run-in with the church, is it?
No, not really. So my time in St. Luke's, I kind of separated into two phases, as it were. My wife and I moved down to Houston from the DFW area in 2012. And a lot of people don't know this. She actually worked for St. Luke's first. That's one of the main things that brought us to Houston. She got connected with some people in the student ministry. And so she worked with student ministries, Rob Delaney, Adam Everett, Will Taylor, Brindley Ginn, for a couple of years. And so I was connected through the youth ministry there. And then I actually started to get involved in choir, interestingly, through my brother, because he went to college with Katie Johnson. And Katie had told my brother, you should join this men's choir that I run called Veritas. So we went to a few rehearsals together. My brother was like, nah, and he left. And but then I got to know Katie better, and she brought me into chancel choir, and I actually was a staff singer, which I think Randy actually mentioned this, that we used to be called interns, which I didn't know until one time we were in chancel choir rehearsal, and somebody said, will all of our choir interns please stand up? And I'm just kind of looking around, and Sid's like glaring eye contact with me, and I was like, what? And he's like, oh, I'm an intern. Okay, sorry. So I sang with St. Luke's during all the construction when we were having like multiple services. And so I sang with like quartets and in early music when we were meeting in the gym and having traditional services there. And then my wife and I actually helped start the Story Houston. So we were part of the original like 20 or so people that planned and sort of started that. So we were part of the Story for, probably close to 3 years, maybe. And then we came back to traditional worship for another couple years, I think. And then Sid called me. Actually, he texted me one night and said, I don't want to turn your life upside down, but I need to ask you a question. And of course, it was for this position. So here I am.
Yeah, I remember him talking about you because when Norlin said she was retiring and we were looking for someone, he's like, I have the perfect person. And he mentioned you. I was like, I've never heard of this guy. You know, how perfect can he be? And
you've heard of all the perfect people, Jim?
Well, I mean, yeah, I have it on one. It's one of my notes here on my iPad. It's a short list. But
just the two of us?
Yeah. Well, one of us, yeah. But yeah, so he said that he would be perfect, and I was like, oh, all right. And he said, you'll love him, trust me. So I guess he was right.
I just won you over by, I don't know, showing you cool lunch places or something.
Yes, and we're going to get into some of that.
Nice.
But so in addition to all of your work at St. Luke's, what did you do prior to being here in a working capacity?
Yeah, so Gosh, well, out of college, I worked a lot of different jobs because I was doing church planting, and I was actually part of a church plant in South Houston, Pearland area, um, and moved back up to Dallas, and it sort of a very winding road that eventually led me to teaching public school choir. So when we moved to Houston, I was hired by KDISD the weekend before new teacher training started. So we actually moved down on a Friday night, and I started new teacher training on Monday. And so I was a middle school choir director for 6 years, 2 years in Katy and 4 years in Cy-Fair. And I opened a middle school in Cy-Fair. And then I taught high school choir for 1 year. And that's what I was doing when Sid called me.
Yeah. And so and when you came here, you started a new choral group, right?
It did.
You want to tell us a little bit
Whisky.
about that?
Yeah. So Sid knew that I really loved my job. And I was really just kind of set to be a career choir director. I knew the people I needed to know, and I went to the places I needed to, and I learned what I needed to, and that was what I intended to be, a high school head choir director for the rest of my life. And so when he called me for this position, it was sort of a non-negotiable that I had to be involved in choir in some way. And he said, well, I've had this idea for a long time. I've never really had a way to execute it or to make it happen, and I think you're the perfect person for it. And so he and I had discussed that, kind of creating a chamber group out of pure sound. And so we did that this last year, called Sonos. And they did some pretty amazing things in their first year, singing at the Voces 8 concert, and was just incredibly proud of them, and am still mourning the loss of the end of the year. About half that group are seniors, and we just one day stopped having rehearsals, and then I've pretty much never seen them again. So
yeah,
that was a really hard way to end this first year with so many big things that we got to do. But they're an amazing group.
Yeah, they got off to a great start, so I'm looking forward to seeing them back. And I think, honestly, the thing we were all most bummed about, though, is that we didn't get to experience your cooking.
I know. Had a whole cookout planned, was ready, couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think that was really the biggest loss.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, my cooking's pretty good, Jim.
You know, we can only imagine now. So where did you go to school, and what do you have degrees in?
I went to school, and whenever I say this, a lot of people say like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. And they're either just mistaken, or they're trying to be like socially just kind, I think, and they actually haven't heard of my school. It's called Dallas Christian College. I will say though, Devin Jones is one of the few people who actually knows somebody who went there or works there or something. I think when I say Dallas Christian College, people think Dallas Baptist or Dallas Theological or something. There were fewer people on campus than I had in my middle school choir. So there were actually fewer than 200 people on campus. My middle school choir program was larger than the entire college. And I was actually kind of at the tail end of one of their sort of older degrees, which was called music ministry. So it was a double major in Bible and music. I intended on being a worship leader in a contemporary setting for the rest of my life, which I did for quite a while, better part of 10 years. And then in 2010, I went back to school. I went to Fuller Theological Seminary to earn a Master of Arts in Theology. And at the tail end of that, it took me 5 years because it was part-time, mostly distance learning, but a lot of commuting to class from Dallas to Houston. And it was toward the tail end of that that I was still directing choirs and had a lot of people say like, so you're in seminary? Why? And I didn't really have an answer except that my whole goal was to teach Bible collegiately first And I really only started directing choirs to have a full-time job and to start a career and to get some experience, because nobody hires out the gate with no experience. And then I just kept directing choirs because I liked it. And one of the reasons that I readily accepted this position is because it felt like the first time and the main way that I was actually going to be able to use my seminary education. And I have many times.
Yeah, you really are the perfect person for worship and music, aren't you?
Indeed.
We didn't really talk about this, I don't think. Do you want to give people an idea of some of the other stuff that you do besides Sonos? I know we could dedicate an entire episode to that, I'm sure, but
yeah, I think I started to annoy people when I first got here, and they're like, okay, so what is it that you do? And I would say something, and they're like, oh, okay. And then I'd say another thing, and, oh, that too, okay. So the title that I inherited was a pretty long title, so that's why I shortened it. I only sort of made it up. I really just shortened it to Associate Director of Worship and Music. So I'm the worship coordinator. That's my primary responsibility, and that's what occupies all of my time now. Anything that happens in the traditional service, be it music or any of the clergy preparation, now anything that you see happening on your televisions on a Sunday morning, I take part in making sure that everybody knows what to do and what to say. And so that's the main part of my job. Also directing Sonos, which we'll see when that happens again. I'm the director of the children's choir program. So we actually have several very talented people who teach our children's choirs. That's both Sunday Sing, our 1st through 5th grade choir, and Joyful Noise, that's our pre-K and K choir. I kind of oversee that, make sure our directors have everything they need. I also direct the handbell choir, which we also haven't met in quite a while, just the same as the others, which we're really hoping that we get to do that again sometime, because we have some really cool stuff coming up in the fall we're really hoping we can do. I think that's it. You could say that that's it.
You'll remember 5 things after we get off this call that you do.
Probably.
Yeah.
There's some sub points in there.
Well, hopefully the bells will come back, because they're probably the safest aspect of our music ministry.
So. We ring masked, I'm thinking. I don't know.
And you already wear gloves for the bells, so, already a step in the right direction. So talking about children a little bit and your student days, you were a bit of a student athlete, were you not?
Somewhat, yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that so that maybe we can show that picture that Lauren sent us?
You still have that, don't you? Okay.
Oh, I'm sure we do. I'll find it.
I'm surprised it's not printed out and put up on your wall. I was a competitive gymnast for most of my life. I started in gymnastics when I was about 6, and I was only in it because my sister was in it, and my mom needed something to do with me while my sister was at gymnastics practice. So she just put me in a class also, and I stayed in it a lot longer than my sister did, and really into high school. And my kind of claim to fame with it is that I was on a team at Cypress Academy with Jonathan Horton, who is a 2-time Olympian in London and Beijing. I was not an Olympic level gymnast, let me make that clear, but I was indeed a very, very competitive gymnast. That was kind of what dictated the majority of my youth, was gymnastics.
Do you miss that at all, or do you have a favorite part about being a gymnast?
It was really fun. It was really an exciting thing to do. I miss being able to fly through the air and land on squishy things. I don't miss that my body hurt so much every day. I was taking 12 ibuprofen a day plus a prescription anti-inflammatory, and I had regular cortisone shots in my shoulders. I have diseases in both of my knees, which still affect me. So there's a lot of it was really, when you get to that level, you kind of have to decide this is all that I'm going to be for pretty much the rest of my life, or where I go to college, what I'm going to do is going to be dictated by this thing. And so I quit my junior year of high school because I knew at that point gymnastics is not what I want to do the rest of my life. And that was kind of the time where you have to decide those things.
Wow. Well, I mean, the sanctuary is a pretty big space. Maybe for like Pentecost or something, we can, if you want to work up for next year, we can have you do something.
Flaming back handsprings down the front.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Actually, I use that as a motivator for some of my classes, that if they got sweepstakes at UIL contest, I would do a backflip for them in the room. None of them thought that I could do it. They thought that I was just blowing smoke, but indeed I could, like one a year maybe, because then it hurts for like 6 weeks afterward. But it's kind of like riding a bike in the air.
So is this an incentive you still offer, or?
There are no sweepstakes left for you, Jim. So
I don't know.
It's not gonna.
Well, so moving ahead to your more current interests, in my mind, you're a bit of an expert on a certain adult beverage.
Coffee.
Well, that too. Do you want to
pseudo expert?
Do you want to tell us what that is and maybe how you got so interested and knowledgeable about it?
Sure. So I have a pretty strong affinity for whiskey, and I always have to start those conversations by saying it's a hobby, not a habit. Okay. I don't really know how I got started in that, except that I performed a wedding. I'm an ordained minister through the non-denominational church, and then I performed a wedding for some of my family members, and they got me a bottle of Glenfiddich 12 as a thank you. And so I thought I would not like whiskey. I didn't really know what it was, and I tried that, and I was like, this is actually really delicious and fascinating. And so I started reading, and I consumed stacks of literature about it. I decided I really liked it because it combined a lot of my already favorite subjects, which is anything Epicurean. I love to cook, and I'm kind of a foodie. So it combines that with chemistry and all kinds of sciences, and a lot of history. I mean, this is a spirit that dates back to like the end of the Roman Empire, and how all of that process worked, and famous names and all that kind of stuff. Just every bit of it was really fascinating to me. And so I read a lot about it, and did some sampling, and kind of built a little collection. Actually, for a few years, I ran a little whiskey club with some friends of mine. Choir directing sort of took the place of that, because it was really hard to sustain that, especially high school choir directing, because there's no such thing as available Friday nights when you're a high school choir director. So I would actually do tastings for some friends of mine. And then after I ran out of my own knowledge, I would bring in some local vendors and local experts and brand representatives, and they would do tastings for us. And that's kind of how it grew.
Yeah. Well, if anybody ever needs a bottle recommendation, I will send them to you. You've opened my liquor cabinet's certainly a lot more full now after getting to know you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I am, and I'm very grateful for that. So, and I guess you could say this is one of these, but what are your 5 favorite things right now?
Well, that's kind of like always one of them.
Right. Let's say in the time of COVID.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I got a fancy new birthday present. My wife bought me a grill smoker combo. I love to grill. It's one of my favorite ways to cook, and I do all of the cooking in my house. And so it's called a Masterbuilt Gravity Series 560 smoker. So it's kind of a combination smoker grill, and it is a lot of fun. And I made a really delicious spatchcock chicken last night. It's like my first thing to ever actually get smoke, and it was amazing. So I love that. I'm on the Bill Bryson bandwagon that Sid proselytizes everywhere he goes. So pretty much every night before bed, I read a little bit of The Body from Bill Bryson, which I love, and I love his writing. And my wife is a little tired of it because she just wants to like chill or be in her own world. And I'm like, you have to read this. And I'll read her like an entire page. And she's like, great, let's just go to sleep. So she doesn't appreciate it as much as I do. Of course, my daughters, I don't know if it's cliche to say like my daughters are my favorite thing, but Nora, her speech and her like feeling expression is getting a lot more clear. So one thing that sort of kind of broke me down as a parent, the other night she was going to bed, and of course, as all 4-year-olds, she doesn't want to go to bed. And so I was snuggled up next to her and I was trying to tell her good night, and she said, "Daddy, I need you to stay here so you can keep me steady while I sleep." And I just thought it was the most adorable thing. And I said, "Where did you hear that?" And she said, "I just said it." Oh my God, keep you steady. That's so adorable. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday morning, she came downstairs grumpy and a little upset. That's most mornings, but she came down and she sat in my lap and we snuggled for a little bit. And we talked about her bad dream she said she had. And I, as you snuggle your kid, and then send her back upstairs so she can go get dressed. And she got about halfway up the stairs and she turned around and said, "Daddy, your hugs and your kisses make my sad feelings go away." And I was like, oh. So that's pretty rewarding. I will say the flip side of that's another one of my favorite things, but it's like slowly being drawn away from me, is quiet mornings. I get up early enough that I can have enough like silent time in my house to just listen to nothing and have no sounds and just sit and drink coffee kind of in the dark. That's like one of my favorite things that sort of sets me up for success for the rest of the day. How many is that?
I think that's 4.
Okay. Most of what I listen to right now, and I've actually talked to Grace about this a couple times, there's an ambient study playlist on Spotify that is most of what I consume these days. It's incredible, gorgeous music, but it's like if I really need to just sit down and knock out some work, or when I go running, like I put that in, and it immediately makes me feel like I'm in some like epic alien story or something, or it's very like outer body experience, if that's a thing. So probably that playlist.
Nice. We'll put that in the link or something so people can listen to it themselves. On the topic of favorite things, you've introduced Grace and I to several new restaurants now that we've come to know and enjoy since we've known you. Do you want to tell us what 3 of your favorite Houston area restaurants are, and maybe what you order at each, or your favorite thing at each?
Okay. Well, the first one's really easy. When right before we moved to Houston, I was actually a barista in the DFW area. And so I didn't have a teaching job yet, and we were moving down for Lauren's job, and so that I could continue seminary. And so I met with Dave Buer of Greenway Coffee, who also does Blacksmith. And so I was going down for an interview. I was all set to be a barista at Blacksmith. And it was our first day in Houston. And he said, "Have you eaten anywhere yet?" And he's like, "Houston's a big foodie town." And I said, "I've heard it, and I'm really excited." He said, "First thing you need to do is go to Polly's. You get the Canestre alla Fungi." He said, "It's the best pasta dish in Houston, guaranteed." And I was like, "All right, that sounds really good." So after we finished our meeting, I went to Polly's, and about 10 minutes later, Dave comes in and he's like, "Sorry, I started talking about it and couldn't not have it." And he's like, "Let me introduce you to Polly." And I was like, "I guess that makes sense because his name's on the door, so I hope he is here." And so it's a regular date night spot for my wife and I. It's so cool and casual, and the food is just so good. It's Polly's on Westheimer. That's an easy one. Another one is not in Houston, and I know that all the interloopers feel like anything outside the loop is like flat earthers are just going to fall off the edge.
Well,
Like
I said Houston area. So
Okay. Now, I don't know what it's going to take, like maybe rent an RV or something to get you up to the Woodlands. But if you ever make it to the Woodlands, my brother-in-law, Austin Simmons, has a restaurant called Tris, where he's the executive chef. And many of the best meals I've ever had in my life have been at Tris. And the restaurant used to be called Hubble and Hudson Bistro. And a couple of years ago, he rebranded and named it after his daughter, my niece, Tris. And that restaurant is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. He also has a tasting menu there called Curate, which is a whole other level of like food that's this big, but it's just going to blow your mind kind of thing. Ooh, and a third one.
is there? I know you showed us a number of burger places that we really like, or
Yeah, I was ashamed to admit it because I know that chain is like a bad word in Houston because nobody eats at chains. You got to eat at like the local places. And I've had a lot of burgers in Houston, and the best burger is at Beck's. And I know it's like a chain. I don't know. I guess it's fairly local. Maybe it's Houston chain. I don't know. But Beck's Prime is always consistently, it's just the best. It's so good.
I think there's just one right down the street from the church, right? Kirby.
I was telling Lauren the other day, like I need a Beck's burger. Like,
Yeah. Okay. One of our lunch dates soon.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so take a deep breath. It's time for rapid fire.
My body's ready, Jim.
And since you mentioned it earlier, Grace's record earlier before the interview, Grace's record is 19 for people watching. That's the most. So,
It's
are you
more
up for the challenge?
It's more important to me that I beat that than if I explain my answer. So I have to get at least 20.
Okay. Well, I got my timer set. Oh, no, that's a stopwatch. That's not a timer. Okay, now I have my timer set for 1 minute. May the odds be ever in your favor.
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1. Rain or shine?
Rain.
Lake or ocean?
Ocean.
Facebook or Instagram?
Facebook.
What color is your toothbrush?
Black and white.
Skydiving or bungee jumping?
Skydiving.
Do you cook with an apron on?
No.
Favorite pizza topping?
Pepperoni.
Soup or salad?
Salad.
If you see a spider in your house, do you kill it or set it free?
Kill it.
Favorite cocktail?
Old fashioned.
Apostles or Nicene Creed?
Nicene.
Miniature or oversized things?
Oversize.
Aladdin or Lion King?
Lion King.
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Least favorite insect?
Roaches.
Favorite liturgical color?
Red.
Cake or pie?
Pie.
Card or board game?
Board game.
Valentine's Day, roses or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Do you like puzzles?
I feel pretty good about that. I didn't keep count.
I think it was 19.
No! Unbelievable. I hesitated on the pizza toppings. That's what got me.
Yeah, you did. Oh, I thought for sure you were going to beat it. Well, we'll tally it up, but I'm pretty sure it was 19.
We might have to have like a lightning round shootout or something.
Oh, we can have a bonus episode with you and Grace or something to... Well, granted, I still have my turn, so I'm still in the running to beat the record. So,
You're not exactly an auctioneer, Jim.
anyway, so for our last question, as always, is there a song or piece of music that you would recommend listeners go listen to after, viewers listen to after watching this episode? Perhaps something from like the Celtic Women maybe, or...
Okay, we don't have to talk about that right here. Okay. But like, yeah, but also other later. So I thought this is one of your classic questions. So I did actually think about this one ahead of time. Because this one has a little story with it. I know a lot of the recommendations have been for choral music, and there's a really good chance that the ones that I would recommend, everybody's already heard. Like Conspirare's version of Sure on the Shining Night, just, you can't beat it. So I'm going to recommend something different, and that is my wife and I used to have a kind of a tradition where every fall we would watch the movie The Village. Have you seen this movie? Mm-hmm. I can't remember if you like M. Night Shyamalan.
I do. I love it. Grace, okay. Not so much.
I love that movie. And it's because it's a very fall movie. Everything's like red and orange and it's cold. So James Newton Howard wrote the music for that. He writes the music for a lot of M. Night Shyamalan movies. And there's a piece called The Gravel Road. And it's a part of the movie where the main character who's blind is trying to find her way through the forest, and she finds this road. And a couple reasons why I love that piece so much. Number one, because it's just insanely beautiful. I just can't even fathom how someone can think of this and then put it down and somebody can interpret it so well to play it. But a really fun story is when I was teaching, I would spend a lot of time trying to teach students to focus on music first. So like our students, one of the rules in our school is they could have earbuds in. And so like they would walk into class with earbuds in, they're walking in between classes with earbuds in, they're doing homework with music on in the background. Every music was always just this background noise in their life. And so I would try to teach them to put everything else away and all the other distractions and make music, even just one song, the thing that you do. It's the thing you concentrate on. And I would have them listen to it and then express something in a variety of ways. Sometimes I would have them draw something. Sometimes I would have them write a little paragraph. And I played this piece, and this was my middle school choir. And I didn't tell them anything about it. Didn't tell them what it was from. And I said, I want you to, this is one of the ones I said, draw a picture of what you think this is. And a 6th grade girl said, she kind of sheepishly raised her hand, and I called on her, and she said, I don't know if this sounds really weird or if I'm getting like too specific, but I feel like it's like a girl and she's lost and scared, and she's wandering around, she's trying to find her way, and then it like changes halfway through, and you can hear that, and it sounds really hopeful, and it sounds like it's, you know, even though it's bad right now, it's going to get better. And my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I love that we could take something that's completely oral and we could make a mental picture out of it, and they could use the music to interpret art in a different way. So The Gravel Road is just, it's mind-blowingly beautiful.
That's such a great story. And what a perfect, pardon the pun, but what a perfect note to end on.
Indeed.
So, well, thank you for taking the time to let me pick your brain a little bit today. I feel like we should also have a special shout out to Lauren, because it's your birthday. It's her birthday, and
It is, and it's actually her mom's birthday as well.
Really?
They are birthday buddies of 32 years.
Wow.
So we get to celebrate them at the same time.
Cool. Well, special happy birthday to Lauren, and thank you for letting us steal your husband. So I hope you're going to go home and cook a nice dinner tonight. So
I'll try.
All right.
Thanks for being kind. You were mostly kind. So.
Well, my interview is next week, so.
You knew it was coming, so you didn't,
yeah.
You didn't want to prime it.
Well, take care, and we will see you on another episode of Beside the Palm.
Peace and blessings.
Bye.
Bye.